was clear, even though he was clear, even though he, in essence, in another realm, I would say he did a great job, but it was just so poorly received. So is there another? I'm sorry.
There was another question on that.
Yeah, okay.
So a question from Lisa is, does your speech have to be the exact same speech for each of the competitions at the area, district, and division level or regional, or can you develop a different speech? You can answer that one, Claudette, or I can answer it. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's a good one. Normally, we carry the same speech forward. I never thought about that.
So I would tell you that a lot of times people do the same speech throughout. Sometimes they put different twists in there just to see how the audience reacts to the speech. So as they continue to move forward, they know what the punchlines are or what how the audience reacts to those speeches. So just kind of use that as a gauge, but you can do the same speech over and over. Um,
But
I think you had another question too, Claudette,
I
about
think I saw where Judith said that you can change it up. You can change it up.
yeah, you
But
can.
most people, like as Ron indicated, they actually, and from what I've witnessed in the last 12 or 13 years, people normally keep the same speech so that they can improve upon it. Know, as Ron indicated, know where the punchline is, know where to pause at. That's where you get better presentation and effect. But you do not have to carry the same speech forward. You do not have to carry the same speech forward. Are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
There are. So Claudette, another one, I think you're gonna cover this later, but just tell me so we won't talk about it. How do you judge a contest? How do you judge a speech contest? And that's from Kevin. But I believe you're gonna cover that later. Is that
I
correct?
am going to cover
Okay.
that.
All right,
I
so
am.
we'll hold off on that one until then, Kevin. And then Claudette will cover that. If we didn't answer the question properly, or if anybody else has a question, we'll go back to that. Another question, what is the best way to prepare for a speech contest?
Oh my goodness. Listen, practice is the student's glue. Practice is the student's glue. When you have a speech, you need to make sure, again, that you practice it because you want to make sure, where do I pause? Where do I raise my voice? Where do I lower my voice? Where do I inject humor? Where do I when do I need to look up at the audience? Who do I need to focus on? You want to make sure that you can just improve upon your speech. Now, with a speech, how you develop a speech, you, of course, there's always that introduction, there's always that body, and there's always that conclusion. And we in my club, we initiated this thing called 5 circles, where we start with we come up with a concept for a speech, and then there are 3 attributes that we want to discuss when we have that topic. Then we want to expound on those topics, and then we draw the conclusion by reiterating what that speech was about. So that's how we do it. And then we just pretty much build upon that. But in the contest, I can say for me, practice is your glue. That's why you want to have practice with your speech. You want to make sure that your club people or persons designated in your club assist you, judge the speech for you, evaluate the speech for you, give you some great tips so that you can move forward. Does anyone else have some tips that they use when they are trying to develop their speeches for a contest?
Claudette, I've seen some, I just want to add to, I know the person that asked the question, want to make sure that a lot of times when you're doing your speech contest, you practice with your club or different clubs. So feel free to visit other clubs. And then as you have an evaluator, have them to key in on certain points. Because if you're practicing, if you want to re-practice, for instance, for a punchline, you can say throughout my speech, I want to make sure my punchlines are correct or that I'm keeping the interest of the audience, or you can ask that your evaluator those kind of questions as you move around. So feel free to move around your district or to other districts in District 77 or outside and practice your speech as much as you can.
Just as a side note, Ron, you're key. One of the reasons that I joined 2 clubs is because maybe I did a speech on Wednesday and it didn't get the effect that I needed. I'd try that same speech out with my other club just to get more feedback. different type of people in that club, different atmosphere in the club. And of course, I was expecting different feedback. And so that really assisted me. So that really is a good point, Ron. So when we're deciding to have a contest, we didn't know who are the players in this contest. And I want to make sure I got everybody, okay, there's one. What are good pathways projects to use for a speech contest speech? Can you get pathways credit for giving a speech at the area, division, and district level? That's interesting.
I
What
think
are
this.
good projects? Listen, there are like how many projects in pathways that you can use for a great contest speech? And I apologize because I don't have my pathways information right in front of me, but
Claudette, I would tell you that all paths are really
I
good for practicing your speech. You just have to find the ones that are in your
applicable.
path that you can relate to, right?
Exactly. Listen, I had a brain fart because I can't remember, and I know Lillian has her hand raised. I can't remember a specific path or specific topic project in Pathways, but I had one guy that gave a speech, and and I can't remember what, and it might have been on innovative planning. And I tell you, when he started the speech, I actually thought it was going to be a very serious speech, and it turned to be one of the best speeches, and it was humorous. And I said, oh my God, you need to give that at a humorous speech contest. You twist it up a little bit and give it at a humorous speech contest. So Lillian, I saw you had your hand raised. I don't know if she can speak, Ron.
I was saying I'm looking for her now, Lillian. She can speak. Oh, Claudette, I don't have co-host anymore, so you might have to give me co.
Let's see.
Right,
Okay.
while you're giving me back
Yes.
those permissions, it was another question in the chat that we voted to do, or when did the speech contest change to virtual? TI has given us guidance that we can do things all of our contests, or all of our things in person, but for the virtual contest, they're asking them to be recorded. So when we turn them into TI, they're recorded. And the only way we can do that, to be fair across the board, is they have to be recorded in your own home, in your own space. So originally the concept was we were going to do an extra room off to the side for people to do contests, because people are going to do virtual. We're going to have a hybrid conference anyway. So some people will do a virtual speech part of their contest. So TI has advised us that we need to do everything, actually the whole contest, before the May conference. So we'll do the speech contest probably a week before, and then we will play snippets or have those presenters come back in person and present at the conference. I hope that answers the question, Judy.
No, it did not. Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. For the person who asked about using pathways projects for a speech contest, once you get to level 3, you have electives you can use. And so inspire your audience, focus on the positive, storytelling. Those are just 3 of the electives that would be fantastic to complete for a speech to use at a speech contest, to make sure your speech complies with those projects. And if you speak at the area, the division, and the district, then yes, you may complete one at level 3, one at level 4, one at level 5, because you do not have to complete the projects in order. However, you have to complete a particular level and submit it before you can submit the next level. So what that means, if you're working on level 3 and you give one speech in level 3, but you haven't finished that, you can give the next speech in level 4. However, you cannot submit anything for level 4 until you complete level 3. So I would just off the top of my head, those are 3 really good projects you can use for your contest speeches, and that was focus on the positive, inspire your audience, and storytelling. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And now that I think about it, I think that guy's speech was on storytelling. So who
So
are the, yes,
I did want to finish the question. Lillian, I know you were listening, you said they didn't answer the question. What part of the speech contest did
that
I
was
not?
Judith. That was Judith.
Oh no, Lillian said it, I didn't answer it too. So between
Okay.
you, Lillian, either one. I want to make sure I clarify that before we move on.
I was just thinking off the top of my head, didn't realize my mic was on.
Okay, all right. All right. I will, Judith, come back to me just in text and I'll answer in the next segment or as we pause again. I don't want to stop Claudette's whole presentation.
Oh, no
So come back
problem.
in the chat and then I'll try to answer based on the question you have.
Okay,
Since
thanks.
Thanks, Claudette.
Hey, more than welcome. When we have a speech contest, we need to know who are the players. First of all, you can't have a speech contest unless you have contestants. That's number one. But you need a contest chair, a chief judge, you need voting judges, a tie-breaking judge, counters, and timers. At the club level, if possible, you need to have a minimum of 5 voting judges, a minimum of 5 voting judges. I do realize that at times there may be difficulty with that, but try to get a minimum of 5 voting judges. And that is, of course, based on the membership of your club. For area, again, you're going to have the same amount of voting judges, but for area contests, we want to make sure there's an equal number of voting judges from each club in the area. So if your area has 5 clubs, of course, you'll have 5 judges, so one from each one. But if your area only has 4 judges, we need to make sure that we can at least have 5 judges because we want that balance within the area. We want that balance within the area. Now, when we get ready to proceed, to division, you'll notice that our voting judges increase to 7. The voting judges increase to 7 because at the division level, we want to make sure there's an equal number of voting judges from each area in the division, or again, that we have 7 judges. And that's pretty much the same when we move to the district level, because at the district level, we want to make sure that we have an equal number of voting judges from each division that is represented at the district. The chief judge, the voting judges, and the tie-breaking judge must not be a member of any club in which the contestant is a member. Remember, I told you earlier, we want to make sure that everything is fair, transparent, and across the board. We want to make sure that all voting judges are to be anonymous when practical. Contest officials must not serve in more than one role for the same contest at the area, if possible, division, district, or region, quarterfinal, semifinal, or final levels, particularly when we're starting to talk about our world contest for speaking. So we just need to be careful with that about who the judges are. And there are specific rules for persons who are serving in all of these roles. With the contest rule book, you remember I told you it's divided in several portions. The last portion of that book gives information for what the counters need, the timers need, what the tie-breaking judges need, what the voting judges are doing, and what their roles are. So we just need to be very careful with that. Before the contest, your contest chair is pretty much like the master of ceremonies or the mistress of ceremonies. And your contest chair is going to ensure that all the contestants are eligible. That means that I got a copy of that eligibility form. I got a member profile from you. I want to make sure that all the contestants are familiar with their roles, all their roles, and the roles and the rules. And I want to know that in your role, if you have some concerns about your duties, that we're able to address those prior to the contest. And the contest chair is going to make sure that all the contestants are aware of the timing protocol. They need to know where the location of the timing device is. They need to know, where can I speak in this entire area, this room that we're speaking from? Am I only going to be, is the speaker only going to be held at the lectern, or can they move across the area? And the contestants will draw for a speaking position. Who's going to be number one? Who's going to be number two? Now, the judges, inclusive of the tie-breaking judge, they're giving a guide and a ballot. The timers are going to be provided with the speech contest time record sheet and instructions on how to use it. And the ballot counters, those are the persons that collect our the counters ballots. They're going to be provided with a counter tally sheet. And this is going to be before the meeting, before the contest. And during the contest chair is going to open up the contest with a few remarks and tell you exactly why we're here, what are we doing. In our case, we're going to be having our humorous, a tall tales contest. And we'll give the parameters for that tall tales contest. And we'll also give guidelines as to who stays in the room, who has to leave. So for the International Humorous and Tall Tales contest, all contestants are permitted to remain in the room the duration of the contest. So imagine that you're sitting there, you're a contestant, and you're participating in the international speech contest. But the first contestant has spoke, and you're number two. When you get up there to speak, remember, you cannot refer to contestant number one or what was in their speech. You cannot refer to the contestant or the material that was in their speech. And it's very easy. You're sitting there, you're nervous, and you're ready to go on, and you've heard these things, but you need to stay focused on your speech. For the evaluation contest, participants are required to leave the room after the test speech has been delivered. When they leave the room, they will have an opportunity to jot down notes, get themselves together, figure out what they're going to speak on and how they're going to present it. And then when they come back into the room, they will have an opportunity to deliver their speech without notes. The table topics contestants, they must stay out of the room until the preceding speaker has completed their response to the topic. Remember, the table topics the topic is designated by the contest chair. That first person that speaks is really, again, impromptu. You're getting your thoughts together, and it's not fair if table topics contestants 2, 3, and 4 hear the same topic and have an opportunity to ruminate on it when the first speaker did. So table topics contestants, they must stay out of the room. They must stay out of the room. During the contest chair will introduce the contestants. For the International Humorous Tall Tales contest, the contest master or contest chair will announce the contestant's name, the speech title, and the contestant's name. Claudinette Purifoy, How I Rode My Bike. How I Rode My Bike, Claudinette Purifoy. The evaluation contest, you'll state the contestant's name twice. Claudinette Purifoy, Claudinette Purifoy. For table topics contestants, you'll announce the contestant's name, the topic, and the contestant's name. Claudinette Purifoy, How I Rode My Bike. How I Rode My Bike, Claudinette Purifoy. Between every speech, there is 1 minute of silence. During this 1 minute of silence, the judges are busy tabulating on their sheets, thinking about what they heard, what they saw, and how they felt when they heard the information. The timer will inform the contest chair when that 1 minute is up. When the last contestant finishes speaking, the contest chair will ask again for silence. And this gives the ballot counters an opportunity to collect all the ballots. And contestants, after, ballot counters will then leave the room. The chief judge will accompany them. And while they're in another area tabulating the results, the contestants will be re-interviewed by the contest chair using the data that was provided to the contest chair on the profile sheet. So there are some questions, and let me make sure I get to all of them.
I can read them out for you, Claudia.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so as one of the questions from Todd, what are your suggestions for the contest chair to have contestants draw for speaking positions virtually?
I think we've done that. We did that with our last contest last year, several times last year. So we've done that, and that worked out really well. We've had some where they pick with the contest chair, they pick a number, and that's how it occurred. So I don't have any issues with that. And Ron, you've done some contests that we've had virtually. How were some of the ways that you did it? Or if, hey, anybody, I know we've been virtual for the last 20 months. How have you guys done it? Okay, Lillian. Okay, let me get you. Sorry about that. Yes, Lillian. Hold up.
Okay, in a virtual contest, you can use a random generator that you can find online. Just Google random generators and you put the names in and hit a button and the system will generate the names for you. Otherwise, you could put all the names in a hat, pull them out and assign 1, 2, 3, 4 to them in a virtual world. In a face-to-face world, yes, you put the numbers in a hat, let them pull a number. You have a suit of playing cards and let everybody pull a card, or anything creative to make it fun.
Okay, Judith indicates that you can use the Toast Host virtual selection. Thank you, Judith. As you can tell, guys, I'm not the most, even though I sit at a computer 12 hours a day, I'm not the most proficient. Are there other questions? I'm sorry. I want to make sure I hit on all of them.
Judith, I gave you the ability to unmute yourself if you want to elaborate on the Toast Host selection.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. For the last 2 contests, district-wise, we've used, I can't even remember who does it, but there is a Toast Host virtual contest tool that's been available to us that I know Lillian used. I know that I used it in the last 2 district contests. It will randomize your selections. It uses, it uses specific email points for the judges and for the ballot counters for everybody. So it's an all-encompassing tool that we can use if you want to do a virtual contest. And there are, if anybody wants to know anything about using that Toast Host tool for a virtual contest, I have information, Lillian has information, Jessica Salavi has information on how to use it, and it really makes it so much easier to control all those little variables that you need to control during a virtual contest. Thank you.
Thank
Definitely.
you. Thank you.
Sorry, Claudette, didn't mean to cut you. Lillian, can you elaborate on from an overarching perspective, what that program does for us? I know we've done a lot of training, but I know you've done a few trainings for the district, and you might be able to summarize that pretty quick for us, what all it entails. Over.
Am I unmuted?
Yes,
You
ma'am,
are
you
unmuted.
are.
Okay, I didn't see the thing pop up. All right, well, basically what Judy says, it's an all-encompassing tool. And you basically just have to set up an account, and then as the chief judge, usually is the person who has control of the software. But in that software, you appoint your contest chair, you appoint all your judges, you appoint your chief judge, you list all of the contestants, and then once everything is set, then you hit the button and it randomizes the contestants and gives you the speaking order for them, as Judy said. So basically, you put all of the contest officials and contestants into this software platform. Once you're satisfied that you've got everyone in there, and as she said, you have to have an email address, but then everything else is automated. And judging a contest is so simple. It takes you like 3 minutes to get the results. So it is really, I would recommend that at a division level if you have a good number of contestants. Not sure about the area level because our area isn't very well attended, but division and above, Judith or I can give you instructions on how to access that and then give you some training on how to use it.
So Todd from Montgomery indicated is that contest.toastmost.org. Is that the tool you guys were speaking in reference to?
Yes, it is, but we didn't put it in the chat because everyone doesn't know how to use it, and it can be a little bit intimidating learning how to use it, but once you get comfortable with it, it is so simple.
And Claudette, I'll close this portion just so you can continue. If you would like training from us, just send us a note, let us know, and we'll set up a training in the district so we can train people on how to use it. We'll do a one-time training, and then that way we can answer all your questions and we go from there. Okay, Claudette, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, in our contest, we have completed, all of the contestants have spoke. We've done the interviews. The chief judge is in another room looking at the ballots. They're tabulating everything, trying to determine who is the winner, who's in first place, or if there's a third place. The contest results are provided to the contest chair by the chief judge. And at that time, we will, address if there were any kind of protests. And yes, Toastmasters, sometimes there are protests and there are disqualifications. If there is a protest can only be brought by the voting judges or the contestants. And at that time, then the contest chair will need to make some resolution on it. And at that time, we'll address any kind of protest. Also, before we announce who the successful persons are in the contest, we will indicate if there are any kind of disqualifications. Now, you can be disqualified by time. Say you went over on the time, so you're disqualified. But the beauty of Toastmasters is we just indicate that a contestant was disqualified. We don't say the name of the contestant at all. Someone asked, can I give an example of a protest? A great question, Linda. Remember when I said you want to make sure that the speeches are substantially original. You are in, let's say, an international speech contest. You have spoken. The next contestant goes up to speak. And you're sitting in the audience. Remember, all contestants are sitting there as well. And then contestant 2 starts giving a speech, and it sounds very familiar to you. Like you read that speech on the internet or you read it in a book somewhere. And you're sitting there and you realize, I think that the content of this speech is actually one I heard from a noted author. And so as a contestant, you can lodge a protest because you see where that speech is not substantially original. Because most of the material that maybe the person quoted or stated, you know it came from something from a noted author, straight from the author's mouth, if they did it on video, YouTube, or whatever. And so you can lodge that protest and then it can be investigated. Does that help, Landa? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Claudinette, that's a great one, and I think it comes up more often than people believe.
It does. And you know, in this virtual world that we've been living in, we have access to so much material. We see things on YouTube, we read things in books, we see stuff online, and we tend to make it a part of our vocabulary. And by happenstance, we find that we are capturing some of these thoughts, some of these words, and we will eventually speak on it without giving it the appropriate reference. Now, if this person had given a speech and referenced that I read in a book by Randy Povich, that when his dad died, he learned lessons in living, and those lessons were X, Y, Z. And then if the speaker goes on to just give their speech, that's okay, because that's not more than 25% of their speech. But it does happen quite often, because this is the information age for us. And we have to just be very careful, very careful. Fantastic. So again, with disqualifications, we will only indicate that a person is disqualified. And let me just go back to the protest. If we find that the protest is valid, again, that person will be disqualified. And the rules indicate that when we indicate they're disqualified, that's final. That rule is final. There's no coming back from that. It's final. And then we will announce the winners, and we announce the winners in reverse order, 3, 2, 1. We announce the winners in reverse order. Now, after the winners have been announced, before the end of the contest, you can adjourn the meeting. But say, for instance, if you have multiple contests, at the end of the event, you can announce who the winners are if you have multiple contests. The chief judge is responsible for completing the notification of a contest winner form. That's one of those forms that's in the book. And they submit it to the next level. So that's how the district level knows who's going to be completing next. So that information is passed along. I actually want to touch a little bit on disqualifications, just a little bit, because I know that, and I thank you guys for all the questions. I just want to protests and disqualifications, they can happen. As I said, we're in this information age where we're just learning so much, and so much information is coming our way and not always referenced. Just yesterday, I get a morning, I like to call it a little inspirational vitamin. My dad's first cousin is a pastor, so he sends something out to all of us kids. And his first statement in there was a statement that said, "A man's word is his bond." My father used to preach that to me as a kid all the time, but I never knew where it came from. And in my cousin's email to me, he didn't know where it came from either. But what he stated was, he made a comment that maybe it was used, it belonged to some historian back in didn't know the name of the historian, but indicated it was historian from back in the day. He didn't attribute that comment to himself, that quote to himself, because he couldn't, because it wasn't his. So just remember that when we're speaking, if it's a quote that's referenced by somebody, we make sure who referenced it. So protests are limited to eligibility, originality, and reference to another contestant's speech. And again, they can only be lodged by the voting judges or the contestants. And any protest must be lodged with the chief judge prior to the contest being adjourned. Listen, it does you no good if the contest is adjourned and then you run up and say, listen, I have a problem with this guy's speech. It has to be done before the contest is adjourned. The chief judge, the contest chair, the voting judges, and contestants must not consider protests from the audience members. Sorry. You may be sitting in the audience and you may hear something that resonates with you and you know that it's not original, but it can't come from the audience members. And before a contestant can be disqualified on the basis of originality or for referencing another contestant's speech, the contestants must be given an opportunity to respond to the voting judges. And then all of the voting judges, a majority of them, they have to concur whether or not with the decision whether to disqualify or not. And the contest chair can disqualify a contestant based on their originality. So we just want to be, I know Landa had asked that question. I just want to kind of go back over it. And then again, the decisions of the voting judges and the qualifying judges are final. There's no going back from there. They're final. So let me ask, are there any questions?
I see nothing in the chat, Claudette.
Well, listen, guys, I want to thank you so much. And I hope that during our demonstration contest, that it will bring the art of holding a contest to life for you all. I can't remember who asked the question in the chat earlier, but someone asked about when preparing for a contest. There's a lot of work that's involved. Even what we're about to do today, there were people that were involved and they were doing things, trying to make sure there may be a budget that you may have to consider when you're holding a contest. The venue, if it's not virtual, where are you going to hold it? You may want to make sure that you have an agenda for your contest, that you have all of the supplies. You may have to order certificates. You may need to order trophies. You want to make sure that you have all of those things in place, as well as if it's on the area level, we want to make sure we have some speakers, contestants as we move forward. And that, of course, if we have people that win at the area, it's known that we're going to have people at the next level. But we just want to make sure that we have those persons. We want to make sure that we've ordered the materials from Toastmasters. You remember I told you, and if we do it virtually, you don't have to order the stuff, but that you have those, the information, that you get the certificate of eligibility from the contestants, that you have information so that you can keep up with the contest time for the timers, that you have a way of, so that the speaker knows what the time is. Am I green, yellow, red? We want to make sure that you have a tally sheet, that we have the contestants profile sheet, the results form. You want to make sure that all the players are aware of what their roles are. I was trying to get back in my head. Did I mention this about even our contest, our judges? And it was funny, when I was going through the rule book, I didn't see it, but it used to be a time our judges had to be trained. We wanted to make sure that our judges had the proper training, had a minimum of participation in Toastmasters for 6 months before they had done 6 speeches or had participated in the competent communication manual prior to becoming a judge, because we want these people to be proficient in what they are doing, So I hope that when our demonstration speech will just bring to life the contest area. Okay, let's see. Okay.
Let me clarify this last question.
Okay.
that kind of comes up. It's come up a few times. So just to be clear, at your club area and your division level, you can do them in person or online. At the district level, I have to do that one online. We voted to have an in-person conference. We did not know the particulars of what TI would give us as guidance to close out the year. So I would tell you, you can do in person or virtual. It's just got to be all or the other. You can't do some people will in person and some people on virtual, because it gives a unbiased opinion for the judges. So you either have to do all or the other. That's kind of been the guidance that we've been given. And since as a district, we're opening it up and we have 3 states, we're doing it virtual because we want to give as many people an opportunity as possible to participate. I hope that answers the question.
Now, someone asked the question, is there a form or process for protests? Which is interesting. Normally in a speech, you will have that 1 minute of silence. And of course, the chief judge, which will be introduced. The voting judges will not be, they're supposed to be anonymous in a contest, but the chief judge will know who that person is. If you hear something and you want to form a protest, it's a matter of being acknowledged and speaking with the chief judge, and of course, the chief judge will relay that information to the contest chair and give us an opportunity to hear you out. I don't know of a form per se, and I'm gonna be looking for that as we proceed on, and I will get back with you unless if someone else knows. Is there a form? I think I don't know of a form. I'm sorry.
We would have to come back to you on the form. I don't remember the exact form.
Yeah, I don't remember a
Lillian,
form as well.
Lillian has her hand raised. She might know it. Go ahead, Lillian, you're unmuted.
There is not a form because you have to make the protest immediately before the results are announced, because once the results are announced, they are final.
Okay.
And so the person who wants to make the protest, as Claudinette said, the only people that can protest is either a contestant or a judge. And you must get to the chief judge immediately, not the contest chair. I wouldn't recommend that because usually the contest chair is in front of everyone. So get to the chief judge immediately. The chief judge will discreetly talk to the contest chair and go from there if there is a protest.
Thank you so much, Lillian.
Thank you, Lillian. And there was another note in the chat there, Claudinette. Someone asked about the district. The district does have clubs in Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. It's the southern tip of Mississippi and the northern tip of Florida. So we do have clubs all the way from Pensacola area, Destin, all the way over to Gulfport, Mississippi, and that area before you get into Louisiana. So we have clubs spanning 3 states. Thanks, Claudinette.
Hey, thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for your participation this morning. You made it very easy for me. I love when speeches and presentations are participatory because it gets my brain moving on a Saturday morning. Thank you guys so much, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Claudinette. So Claudinette, I want to thank you for definitely enlightening us with speech topics and how we lead into the next portion in January as we lead off in our speech contest. So remember, clubs, you can decide if you only have 1 contestant, you can decide to vote that person in by hearing their speech. You don't have to have 3 contestants, and they just have to have the minimum requirements and pathways to do their speech. So I would tell you, just make sure you find your best talent and pull them into the speech contest. We apply to anyone that wants to speak, as long as they fit the pathway criteria. And we're excited to see what kind of talent is within District 77. We do have a ton of talent. It's just making those people feel comfortable that a speech contest can be done by everyone. All right, let me look in the chat, make sure we don't have any additional questions. Claudinette, awesome job, way to represent Division A, and we thank you for that. I didn't see any more questions, so what we'll do is let us reset. Give us a 10-minute break. We'll come back. It's 10:09, but by the time we close 10:10, So come back at 10:20 and we'll start the demo Tall Tales. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Hey, you're officially on your break, and thank you, Claudette, again for the great presentation.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
and it's a very active club, and I see a good future for this area. After we lost the Tyndall Air Force Base Club in the district after the hurricane, of course, everything was flattened here in Panama City, especially at Tyndall Air Force Base. There really wasn't representation in this area with respect to the Toastmasters Club. So I'm real excited about the future for the Panama City Club. Just wanted to give a shout out. All we can see is the banner right now, but we have 5 judges and a chief judge that have pen in hand and are ultimately ready to do a ballot with the demonstration speech that Lillian is going to do. So that's ultimately what we're going to do. And Londa in the break insisted that we do a demonstration protest. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but
that was a surprise. That was a surprise.
Anyway, I just had to prepare the group for that. But thank you, Ron. Any other questions about what's going on here or anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that's perfect, Stephen. All right. So as we kind of move through this thing, I do believe it's important. A lot of clubs haven't done a tall tale, so we want to kind of show this was an opportunity, one, for us to do some training on speech contests and make sure that all your questions are answered as we move into January, because it'll be important that you understand how a speech contest goes and all the participants that are required. The thing to remember is, as you set up for a speech contest, you're not alone. If you're at the area or the division level or the club level, you're not alone. And there's some players that have to be involved in that. So a few things that are key that you have to remember is make sure that as you get participants, the judges aren't in those clubs, so it's not biased because they already know how that person speaks, and a few other things, tips of the trade that just need to make sure that you're aware of before we start, since we have a decent amount of people that are new and a decent amount of people that are new in the leadership roles. And so that's our aim. So naturally, always feel free to ask questions. We're always here and we're willing to answer any questions that you may have as we move through. So what we're going to do in this portion, we're going to do a demo tall tales. We want to make sure that you understand how a tall tales is set up, or how a tall tale speech goes. It's just a fun speech, and you have to decide, do you believe it or not? And at the end, the judges will do their judging, and then we'll continue back. With that, I would ask, is our timer in the room, back in virtual room? Okay, I know my timer stepped away. Okay, so the timer's back. All right, so my timer's back, and so we have the timer ready to go. And so with that, I will turn it over to our contest chair, Claudette Pierre-Pierce.
Thank you so much, Ron. I do appreciate that. And hello, Toastmasters, and welcome to our Tall Tales speech. I am Claudette Purifoy, and I am so proud to be here today to serve as your contest chair. As I indicated, this is a Tall Tales contest. It means that the speech is going to be highly exaggerated, a little improbable in nature, and have a theme or plot. Our speaker will have the opportunity to engage us with humor, and they can use props as well. The rules have been reviewed with the chief judge and our contestant. The contestant has been informed of the location and of the timing lights. And for our timer, will you be using lights, or does our speaker need to pin you? Please advise.
The speaker will need to pin me. I will use backgrounds.
Okay, thank you so much. It is very important that our contestant selects their own speech topic. And the content can be personal in nature, and I am sure that the language and ideas and beliefs will be something that we will all enjoy. At this time, I introduce our contestant, Lillian O. Cook, the true story of the Three Little Pigs. The true story of the Three Little Pigs, Lillian O. Cook.
Madam Toastmaster, everyone thinks they know the story of the Three Little Pigs, but I will let you in on a little secret. No one knows the real story because no one has heard my side of the story. I am Alexander T. Wolf. You may call me Al. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Way back upon a time, I wanted to make a birthday cake for my grandma.
Lillian, you went on mute, I believe.
Okay, I'm not sure where I went on mute, so please restart me. I'll start over.
You do have video and capability also, Lillian.
Okay, I cannot start my video.
Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can.
There we go.
Okay, there you go. Thanks.
Madam Contest Master, everyone thinks they know the real story of the Three Little Pigs, but I will let you in on a little secret. No one knows the real story because they haven't heard my side of the story. I am Alexander T. Wolf, but you can call me Al. Way back, once upon a time, I wanted to make a birthday cake for my grandmother. I was getting the ingredients together for my cake when my allergy started acting up and I started to sneeze. I continued to get my ingredients together and I realized I was out of sugar. So I grabbed my cup and I went next door to my neighbor's house to borrow a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig. And he wasn't too bright either because he had built his house out of straw. Well, I knocked and the door fell in. Well, I didn't want to just walk into someone's house, so I called out, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was about to turn around and go home when I felt a sneeze approaching. So I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And the whole house fell in. And there in the middle of the straw lay the little pig dead. Woof. You can't let a good ham dinner go to waste. So I ate it. Well, I still didn't have the sugar I needed for my grandma's cake. So I decided to go to the next neighbor's house. Now, this neighbor was the brother of the first little pig, but he was a little bit smarter because he had built his house out of sticks. Well, I knocked on the door. No answer. I rang the doorbell. No answer. Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, go away, wolf. I'm shaving the hair on my chinny chin chin. Well, I had just decided to leave when I felt another sneeze coming on. So I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. And the whole house fell down. And you might not believe this, but right there in the middle of the rubble was the little pig dead. Wolf's honor. You know, food will go bad if you leave it in the air. So I did the only thing a wolf would do. I ate that pig too. Think of it as a second helping. You know, I still needed the cup of sugar for my grandma. So I went to the next neighbor. Now, this neighbor was the brother of the first and second pig, and he must have been the brains of the family because he built his house out of bricks. But I knocked on the door. Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that little porker said? He said, get up the hill, wolf. Don't bother me again. Well, you know, I was frustrated by this time and I was just going to go home and maybe make a birthday card instead of a birthday cake for my granny when I felt a sneeze coming on. So I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. And then I heard that pig say, and your grandma can go sit on a pen. Well, excuse me. I am usually a calm person, but if you talk about my granny, that sets me off. So I started banging on the door and trying to get in. When the police drove up, I was trying to break the door down. And the whole time I was huffing and snuffing and sneezing. The police carted me off to jail, and the rest, as they say, is history. But the news reporters heard about it, and they didn't think a sick wolf trying to make a birthday cake for his granny was very exciting news. So they jazzed up the story with all the huffing and puffing and blowing your house down. I didn't do that. They made me out to be the bad wolf. And there you have it, the real story. I, Alexander T. Wolf, was framed. And that's what I told the board this morning at my parole hearing. Contest master.
We will have 1 minute of silence. Timer.
It's time.
Thank you very much. At this time, I ask that our judges complete their ballots and that the ballot counters and the chief judge do their job. Thank you. At this time, we will interview our contestant, Lillian O. Cook. Lillian, are you with us again?
Yes.
Fantastic. Lillian, you have been a Toastmaster for many years. And what are some of the things that you enjoy in Toastmasters?
Some of the things I enjoy in Toastmasters are learning new things, helping other people. Yes, I've been in for 23 years and I do have my Distinguished Toastmaster Award, but I stay in because I think there is no such thing as the perfect speech. So I go back to the basics every year and continue to give speeches. And when we have new members join, I will mentor new members if they so choose to help them in their Toastmasters walk. And I also like learning new things. I know a lot of people still don't like pathways. I love it. I'm one of those weird people that like it.
Thank you so much, Lillian. And also, tell us a little bit. You indicated one of your hobbies is Dylan's Dogs for Diabetes. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, Dylan's Dogs for Diabetes is a nonprofit that helps people who have been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes purchase a service alert dog. And we especially work with children because Dylan was 5 years old when he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And he started this nonprofit when he was 9 years old because his dog trainer told him, you need a nonprofit. And she told him the benefits of it. And then after he got his diabetic alert dog, he told his dad, well, I want to get 3 other dogs to help 3 other kids. So let's raise money for that. Well, over the last 5 years, we have placed over a dozen dogs in states all over the US.
Very nice, very nice. And for my last question for you, Lillian, you said that what inspires you the most is helping others and spoiling those grandkids.
Yes,
How is
I have
grandmama
3.
doing that?
I have 3 grandchildren, Aaron, who is 10, Rose, who is 16, and Christina, who's 21. So they are not children anymore per se, but I'm the typical granny. I do what I can to spoil them and then give them back to their parents and let them deal with the brat in the child because they're angelic with me. They really like me because I'm the crazy grandma. I get them into trouble and they love it.
Wonderful. And thank you so much, Lillian, for your participation in this interview, as well as in your participation in our contest. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Chief Judge, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Contest Chair. Well, it's unanimous. We have come to the conclusion that Toastmaster Cook is the winner.
Well, thank you so much. She's our number one. And I just want to say I did not have any protests, and evidently there was no disqualifications for time. So I do appreciate that, Chief Judge, and for your support persons that are there assisting you. At this time, because Lillian will represent our area, our division as she proceeds on, we will make sure that her information is provided to the next level up. I want to thank each and every one of you for your participation today for this demonstration contest, and I hope it has served as a great blueprint for you as you move with having your club contest and you send that person to your area contest. Thank you so much. And I turn it back over to Toastmaster Hicks.
Thank you, fellow Toastmaster Clyde Napier Fields. Thanks for representing. And then also our esteemed judges and the chief judge. Thank you for that. And I'm glad you didn't protest. I appreciate that, as it helped us move through. So it would have been fun, definitely. I started to say I object, but you didn't give me the opportunity. So, so as we move through, I appreciate everybody's diligence. Please, if you have questions, please make sure you send those up through us so we can get those answered for you as you move into the speech contest season. And any other questions you have as you move through. I want to thank you for your support of Toastmasters and all the work you do in your clubs, because without you, there's no District 77. And then without your members, there's no Toastmasters. So I want to say thank you for that. And I want to say continue enlightening your members, keep encouraging them, keep mentoring them, keep coaching them. And already it's halfway through the Toastmaster year. Look how time has flown. I am excited that we've gotten to this point, and I'm sorry that I don't have my video on, but I am happy we got to this point. And Lillian, I think I have your hand raised, or did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to make sure you remind people to come back next Saturday at 9 a.m. It will be the first session of club officer training. We are doing things a little bit different this year. We have some fun things planned, but you have to be there to know what those things are. So you should have received an email with the link to register for one of the 4 sessions of club officer training that we are providing this year.
Hey, Lillian.
Thank you.
Lillian, I just have one question in regards to training. Like, for instance, I got 3 positions in 2 different clubs. So will I have an opportunity to do multiple training?
It is perfect you asked that. Lillian, do you want to take it, or you want me to take that?
It doesn't matter, Ron, you can take it.
All right, so you asked, we listen, and as in the email that we sent out, it's hard to do 3 positions, and it's hard to be in 3 separate trainings throughout COT training as we do these TLIs. So what we've done for every member is, if you have a member that's in 2 or 3 different positions, they come to this one training and they get all the positions done and they're knocked out in one session. So we're excited about being able to do that for you guys. And we added some fun in there. So make sure you attend. As always, the goal is 100% of your officers trained, and that kind of pushes towards your DCP goals inside of your club. So I really am excited for what we are able to do. And also, we have some surprises for you as you listen, a lot of things about the conference leading us in. So I'm excited to give you some tidbits, but you got to come and show up for us to talk about it. I won't spoil any of the spoilers. All I can tell you, it's in the great city of Huntsville, the Rocket City. And other than that, you got to come and show up for us to tell you the rest. With that, I will open it up. Jessica, you have a question? I see your hand raised.
I just wanted to follow up with Lillian had said there's an email that had come out. If you did not receive the email, please check your spam folders, because we do use MailChimp and sometimes it gets redirected there. Leaders, please remind your club members to do the same thing, because I have gotten notifications that people haven't received those emails and then they look in their spam folder and it's there. So please remind each other to check your spam folders to make sure you whitelist the email.
Great. Thank you, Jessica, for that. And one more plug that I would be remiss if I didn't put in. We have the TLI training on the 11th, and then on the 13th, we have a moderating the panel. And our esteemed Toastmaster Proctor is running a phenomenal session on moderating the panel, and it's about membership. And we have our esteemed IP that's going to be there. Roy Ganga will be there to give us his esteemed words of wisdom, along with 2 other panelists, one of them being myself, your PQD for this year. And so I'm happy to be on that panel, and I would invite you to come to that also. You did receive that through our MailChimp, so make sure you look in your junk mail or in your promotions. If you're in Gmail, it might be hanging out over there, so you can register and attend both of these great events we set up for you. All right, with that, I want to say I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm open. If anybody has anything, we'll stay on for a few minutes just to make sure we answer any questions you have. But with that, hey, have a great holiday season. On behalf of the district director, she couldn't be here this morning, but she sends her regards and says, looking forward to seeing you in January and all the things we have to do for the rest of the year. We have a lot of work to do. Membership season is coming up, and if your club hasn't reached their goal of their members to stay active, make sure that you do that, and make sure you inspire your leaders and your members to rejoin, and especially your leaders. If your leaders aren't joined, then that sends a message to your members. So make sure your members and your leaders have renewed in their clubs. Other than that, I will do one last. Oh, Peggy, you had a question. I see you in the chat. Jessica, I don't know if Peggy can talk. Let me see here. I think you're unmuted, Peggy. Go ahead.
If a club doesn't have 8 members, can they still send a judge to the contest?
Yes, you can send a judge. You just can't have a speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, and this is Claudinette. I just want to remind you guys, I had planned on hitting on this topic, but I didn't, about who can actually compete in a contest. Please go to page 6 of the rule book. For instance, to make sure that, like, for instance, if you're a region advisor or area director or division director, club director, you can't compete. And of course, if you've already won world championship of speaking, of course you can't speak. But I just want to make sure that you understand, that you remember that there are some people, because of their role, they cannot participate in a contest.
All right, definitely. Thank you, Claudinette, for that. That is one of the things that pops up, and I actually was thinking about that earlier. I was like, if you're in leadership, you cannot compete. But
that's right. I got so wrapped up, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Hey, always a chance to come back and get it. So I appreciate everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule. I've taken right at 2 hours of your time. And so I really appreciate all the time and support that each of you give us. And I want to close out with making sure that our CGD, do you have any parting words? Or let me make sure he's still on there. No, he had to drop. So, okay. So anybody else, I'll stay on for a few minutes. And with this, we'll close out. Thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Okay.
And thanks to our great panel of judges that's on the other side in the sunny Florida. All right. Okay, everybody, have a great holiday.